Hi guys, today we're going to work through the 301 quiz on volume, focusing on volume of cubes, rectangular prisms, and triangular prisms. First, let's quickly review what volume is. Volume is the measurement of what a shape can hold. It's the measurement of the inside of a shape. Because of that, volume can only be measured, volume can only be related to three-dimensional shapes. So like a cube or a triangular prism or a cylinder or a sphere, all of these here, as you can see on the right side of our diagram, these are all examples of 3D shapes. Those all can have volume. If we have a flat shape, if we have a two-dimensional figure like a square or a circle or a triangle, those don't have volume. They are flat. They only have area. So in order for a shape to hold volume, it must be three-dimensional. Let's start our practice with working on finding the volume of a cube. The nice thing is whether we're working with a cube, which is a three-dimensional square, or a rectangular prism, so a three-dimensional rectangle, we can use the same formula. And that is right here in the right beneath my picture. The volume is equal to your length times your width times your height. Please make sure if you don't have this written down that you jot down this formula to help you remember it and you can refer back to it. Well, if we are dealing with a cube, the first thing we want to do is identify our different side lengths. Now, because it's a cube, it is honestly all the same because all of our sides are equal. That is what makes this a cube. But I went ahead and labeled my length, width, and height anyways. Now that we've done that, we can take our formula and we can substitute, we can replace the length, width, and height with our values. So first, let's get our formula down. It's length times width times height. But we are going to substitute, we are going to fill in what we know. We know that we have a length of 2. So that is being substituting, that is replacing our L. And we have a width of 2. That is substituting, replacing our W. And we have a height of 2. That's going in for H. All right. In this case, we just have only one operation. All we have is multiplication. It's multiplication straight across. So we need to multiply 2 times 2 times 2. And 2 times 2 is 4. And then 4 times 2 is 8. We have a volume of 8. Let's go ahead and make sure we label this though. Notice that our units in this case are millimeters. And because we're dealing with volume, we are multiplying 3 different sides. Our label is always cubed with volume. The volume of this cube is 8 millimeters cubed. All right, now we have a triangular prism. Our formula for a triangular prism is 1/2 times length times width times height. Sometimes you will also see this written as base times height. That base is representing your length and your width together. So you may see this formula 2 different ways. But the nice thing to remember is it is very, very similar. The only difference is we have to multiply by a half. But don't let that fraction scare you because a half is my favorite fraction. I think it's the easiest one to deal with. All right, first step. Yes, it's a new formula. Yes, it's a new shape, but you're going to see our steps are very similar. We first want to identify the information we're given. If we look at our triangular prism here, I can see we have a length of 8. That is our longest side. And then the bottom, the width is 6. And this dashed line is showing us how tall it is, so our height. Once all of that information has come into play, we can substitute, we can plug that into our formula right here. So volume is equal to 1/2 times our length, which is 8 yards, times our width, which is 6, times our height, which is 5. Now, we still have just all one operation. It is multiplication all the way across. There are two different ways that you can work with this 1/2 as a fraction. I'm going to show you both ways and you can decide what you like better. One way is sometimes you may like to rewrite that fraction as a decimal. Maybe that's easier for you to type into your calculator. So 1/2 as a decimal would be 0.5 times 8 times 6 times 5. So if you like that method, you can do that and then type it into your calculator. 1/2 as a decimal, which would be 5/10, so 0.5 times 8 times 6 times 5 gives us a volume of 120 yards cubed. That's one option. That's one way you can do your work. Another way, I'm going to rewrite the problem, is we're going to keep it as a fraction of 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm first going to multiply all of my whole numbers. I'm going to multiply the 8, 6, and the 5 together. So 8 times 6 times 5 would be 240. Now we can multiply 240 by 1/2, which that is the same thing as dividing by 2. Because if you multiply something by a half, if you are taking a half of something, that is dividing it by 2. So now I'm going to take 240 and divide that by 2, which is the exact same answer, 120. So there are two different options. You can choose how you want to deal with that 1/2, whatever makes the most sense for you. You'll get the same answer. Next up, a rectangular prism. So we are being asked to calculate the volume of this rectangular prism, and we can see here that all of our side lengths are fractional side lengths, but that is a-okay. Don't let that scare you off. You can work with fractions. I bet that you're better than you think you are. Let's start off with our first thing every time. Whenever we're working with formulas, any type of word problem, we always want to label and identify our information. I see right here we have a length of 11/4 centimeters, a width of 1/2 centimeters, and a height of 5/4. We are still going to use our formula. We're going to substitute. We're going to plug in those values for our length, width, and height. Our length is 11/4. That is times our width, which is 1/2, times our height, 5/4. All right, we have pure multiplication here. Do you remember how to multiply fractions? I like multiplying fractions because the denominators don't have to be the same. When you multiply fractions, you just multiply straight across. So numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. Let's work on that with our first one here and multiply 11/4 times 1/2. 11 times 1 would be 11. And then 4 times 2 would be 8. Now we need to multiply that by 5/4. So 11 times 5 is 55. And then 8 times 4 is 32. All right, depending on your answer choices, if it leaves your answer as an improper fraction, then awesome, but most likely you'll need to simplify it. The first thing I do to simplify, or sometimes you hear it called to reduce the fraction, is see if we can divide those. 55 and 32 is not going to divide evenly, so I'm not going to reduce and just get a beautiful whole number. We are going to need to make sure we convert this to an improper fraction. Remember, in order to do that, we divide. So 32, that can go into 55 one time. When we subtract, we are left with 13. Because we're dealing with fractions, remainders are good because that remainder becomes our numerator. The volume of this rectangular prism is 1 and 13 32s. I didn't say that right. 1 and 13 over 32 centimeters cubed. All right, we do have one more example, so don't close out of the video yet. But to make sure you guys don't always skip ahead and find the code word, you're getting it a little bit early. So your code word for today is ladybug. So after you watch this final example and you finish the video, if you are wanting or needing another attempt on your 301 quiz, this is what you need to email your teacher. And here is an example of how you can best email your teacher. Ask them if you can have another attempt on the 301 quiz so we know exactly what assignment you're talking about. And then in that same email, tell us that you've watched the video and the code word is ladybug. All right, here we have our final example. We're going to do one more problem with a rectangular prism. A rectangular prism has a volume of 30 inches cubed. If one side length of the shape is 6 inches, what could be the measurements of the height and width? And we are given 3 multiple choice options. There are a couple different ways that you could go about solving this. I personally like to just go through my different answer choices and see which one will result with the answer, which one will give me a volume of 30 inches. And we know that one side length is 6. Let's go ahead and work out problem A first. Problem A would be where we have a length of 6 inches, and then my other 2 sides are 5 and 10. If we multiply all of that, take 6 times 5, multiply that by 10, we get 300. Is that the volume we were looking for? Nope. So A is not a possibility. Let's try B. B, we have a volume. We're still using that one side that we were given. We know for sure one side is 6, but this time let's try for a length of 5 and a height of 1. If I multiply that, 6 times 5 is 30, 30 times 1 is 30. Is that what we were looking for? It is. That means B is our answer because option B with the side lengths of 5 inches and 1 inches will result in this volume. And of course, if you wanted to just triple check your work, you could go ahead and try the other 2 answer choices to make sure that you didn't have any miscalculations or multiply wrong. All right, hopefully this was a good review for you and you feel more comfortable and you were able to take some notes. Now go work on that 301 quiz and email your teacher if you need help. Bye.